This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to yet another episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z with Matt Vonslow, and believe it or not, I am Matt Vonslow. I am extremely happy to announce my next guest. She is the co-owner of L1 Automotive Diagnostics and Programming with her husband Keith. She's been doing this for a few years. We'll dabble into the details here in a minute. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the podcast, Liz Perkins.
Hey guys, nice to be here.
Nice of you to join us.
I was ecstatic when you sent me a message on Messenger. I was like, wow, he wants to interview me? Why?
Oh man, you got to have higher life goals.
Yeah, I we talked a little bit about, hey, what do you want to discuss? I'm like, hey, no one knows me. Everyone knows Keith, and I just happen to be.
Who's Keith?
Well, I'm sure he has a bigger name than I do, but Keith Perkins.
Well, yeah, yours is like 3 letters and his is 5.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, he's more well known in the automotive community. We have YouTube channels. We have an L1 training company. It's both online and in person. We have an L1 Automotive Diagnostics and Programming, mobile diagnostics, ADOS, 1234YF. Actually got asked to do a 134A the other day.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It was a new, I guess you would say, like a body collision shop from the dealership. So the dealership decided to say, hey, let's make a collision center. And right in front of them is another dealer with a service center with a 134A machine. So we took ours over there and evac'd 134A for them.
Awesome.
I was very shocked. So yeah, we have that business. We have 3 employees. We just hired a new one. So things are cooking there. And then we also have a shop.
Well, you know what? Not to interrupt, but yeah. Speaking of employees, it's no secret we're facing a technician shortage, and NAPA Auto Care is addressing that. They have a free 2-year apprentice program that offers a variety of training to produce technicians with 3 ASE certifications. To learn more, members can visit member.napaautocare.com.
That's awesome.
So they got an apprentice program that's
really cool.
Laid out.
Yeah.
Back to L1.
Yeah. So
you got 3 employees.
3 employees, including me and Keith. Not including me and Keith, excuse me. Yep. And then we just opened up our actual shop location, which you don't see a lot of foot traffic yet, but that's okay. We're slowly growing into that business.
So this is going to be a shop, like regular service, or is it going to be aimed as a extension of the mobile stuff?
Right now, it's more of an extension of the mobile stuff. The space that we have doesn't really lend for a lot of like lube tech stuff and alignments, transmissions, things like that. We definitely want to grow into that space as time goes on, but baby steps. So we're going to keep that philosophy going. Let's keep being good at what we have, and then we can slowly grow.
Yeah, and you included yourself and the employees, and I'm not insinuating any dig there. That besides being co-owner, you've been out in the van. You've been out to shops to perform services for them.
Absolutely. So this all started, I think over 4 years ago now. First, it was just Keith. Then my husband was like, "Hey, I think I need to start hiring somebody." And I was like, my kids are starting to go to school full time, and I just was in that point in my life where I'm like, "Hey, I want to join the workforce again." And I really he's a really good storyteller, which some people say he's too good of a storyteller sometimes.
I can vouch for this. He is a very, very good storyteller.
So he'd come home so excited about finding something that no one else could find. And it just kept being more and more infectious. And I was like, you know what? Can I ride with you? And he's like, you really want to?
No.
He's like, you really want to? I was like, yeah, let me try it out. So I was like, okay. We go out and he's kind of showing me, and he's kind of just skimming over that. I was like, wait. What is that? Why are you doing that? I want to understand why. And the whys led me to where I am today. So just asking why and learning more as we went, I ended up getting put into my own van. We expanded, and I actually was going out and doing my own programming by myself. going into these shops, and I loved it, man. I just absolutely loved it. And he's like, I just can't believe you, like, just from nothing, like you can jump into this. And I was like,
so when they say nothing, what does that mean? And, we know obviously is nothing's not nothing, but what would be your background if you were to say coming into this, what was your background?
I did like key room and stuff like that. Like I didn't really have any experience in the automotive industry at all. The only thing that I had done ever automotive was help my dad, drop a fuel tank. And he told me how to change a spare tire when I was a kid. Like that's really the only things I knew. I don't know how to change oil. I don't know any of those things, but I can program with the best of them.
Yeah.
It just, I went backwards really in the industry.
But obviously you must have had some level of PC knowledge. And then like working in a cell phone store, there's something to just having to solve issues on cell phones, even if it's just to show somebody how to do something, that like there's a process that you click this, and it isn't like click this, boom, magic. It's click. Now I have to, determine what the next logical step is to press to go to the next. And I'm not trying to insinuate in any way that that's the reason you're successful at this, but
yeah, no,
you had some.
Yeah, I had some knowledge. I mean, I definitely had those customers, especially when I was selling cell phones when razors came out. Okay. Like when an iPhone came out, like that was a huge thing. And I was working for a company that didn't offer an iPhone, and everybody wanted an iPhone. Like Blackberries were like, well, we don't have an iPhone, but we have a Blackberry, like, will that work? No, I want an iPhone. So there is that knowledge there, I guess you would say. But I mean, Keith still gets on to me for not knowing how to use Excel right. He's like, oh no, if you do this and this, like it just does it so much easier and faster. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But
right.
As time went on, I got better and better at it. Like I said, I was in a van, and then Keith had this idea. Hey, ADAS is really big. So advanced driver systems, they're out there. No one's programming them. This is something that we really need to get into. I said, okay. So we looked at the equipment, very expensive to get started with using the targets and stuff. And so he had the idea of starting small. Let's just start small and let's grow. And man, did it grow so fast.
Yeah.
And then my van pretty much came an ADAS van. So an ADAS van, that's my favorite. I like carpentry. I had a business, at home business while I was staying home with my kids. Like I would like make t-shirts and woodwork and those type of things, but it wasn't super lucrative. If Keith was on here, he'd be like, no, she definitely spent more than she made. But no, it was fun. It gave me something to do, something to look forward to each day besides, just the mundane of having a toddler going to the zoo for the millionth time with your friends and all that. So, I think because of the woodworking, like the measurements and the lines and all of that, like really attracted me to ADAS, Yeah. And, so yeah, like ADAS for me was like my favorite. Every time I get an ADAS call, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go do ADAS. And he's like, oh, I'm really glad you liked it. And so he's like, well, let's do it this way and let's get you in a different van. So we bought a bigger van and put that in there. And then as time went on, we hired a
because if you're carrying for multiple car lines, that could chew up a lot of space really fast. I
had targets bungee corded to the ceiling of my NV 2500 high top. Like that's how like crazy it got at times. Some of them were even too big to bungee cord to the top. I'd slide them in with cardboard protecting them. So, but yeah, I really enjoy ADAS. Yeah. And got to really know like the people in the collision centers, and they would call me and like, hey, I just don't know about this. What are we doing? And to have those kind of conversations with like someone that has no idea that this is something they should be implementing and the reasons why, and, the legislation that's out there and the liability and all of that for doing a proper repair. So it's just I don't know. There's just something about this industry that's so infectious. And, of course my husband got me into it, but it's everybody I've met that kept me going, go into vision.
You must meet much different people than I do.
No, you were one of the people. Yeah. So I took a PICO class with you and Scott Shotton, Introduction to Pico at Vision. I've taken, oh my goodness, took another Scott Shotton class. I did his Diagnostics. I can't remember what it was called specifically, but took that class later at Vision. And then last year, of course, we took online classes, which I'm so excited for Vision to be back in person this year. Like, just really restart your engines, if you will, for just to get you excited again. So, and
did you sign up for classes already?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're done. Everybody's going. We're shutting down shop. So not only this year are we going to classes, and Keith is teaching, but we're also going to have a booth this year for our training company. So I'm excited about that. So it'll be our first year at the expo and getting to meet everybody. Hopefully we'll see you out there. But setting the booth up is something new and exciting to also do. So
I don't know if Sherry's going to let me come this year.
I'm sure you're coming. I'm sure you have classes. I don't even remember seeing them, but I'm sure you are.
I'm doing mine remotely. I'll have a virtual presence there.
Really?
Yeah. You ever see that episode of Big Bang Theory?
I don't know. I do watch Big Bang Theory. Now, some of your other movie references I don't quite get, but Big Bang Theory, you got me on the same page.
There's one episode where he's got almost like a Segway mounted up with a monitor, and it's got his face on it.
Yes,
going around the college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talking to everybody. Because I think he was trying to protect himself from getting sick.
Hey, I mean, we're in that world now.
Yeah, and this was way pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Way.
Gosh, that was probably
Sheldon.
In the middle.
I should
of
say it was
seasons.
Sheldon, not. He would be the only one to do it. Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited about it. It was kind of sad to hear about the. Is it ASTE? No, one of them got canceled in Michigan, and that was kind of sad to hear. But I think Vision's a go.
Yeah. Vision's a go. We got signed up. Matter of fact, I was talking to him about our booth like last week. So everything's great. We got into the hotel, so it makes it easier to go downstairs and mingle with everybody and not have to drive to a hotel. So
yeah, it helps immensely.
Yeah.
Whether you can be right in the Sheridan or the other two just across this street aren't too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the hotels themselves are nice, but the trip over there isn't bad at all.
Yeah.
Start getting outside of that.
I mean, the first 2 times we went, we stayed over 5-10 miles from it. Like, it still wasn't that bad, but I'm like, hey, it's 2 a.m. We have to get you awake and here by a certain time. So
let me just finish this story.
Yeah, right. And then 5 stories later.
Yeah, right.
But
oh man.
But yeah, that's a great connection tool, man. Like you meet people from all the countries, sometimes all over the world, have different perspectives on the same career.
Yeah, it's literally the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually there's a group from Australia.
Yeah.
And Sari makes it up from Africa.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's amazing.
Wearing sunglasses all the time.
I mean, Keith wears his sunglasses all the time too, so.
Yeah, on his head.
Oh, the kids even said something about tonight at dinner. Like, do you ever wear them on your face or you just only wear them on your head? So he's known for his sunglasses on his head.
You remember which classes you're signed up for?
I'm doing managerial and marketing classes this year because
nice.
I'm no longer really in a van. That's the kind of news that everyone's like, oh no, what? Oh. Yeah. They're like, hey, why would I see you anymore? We miss seeing you. So, but they call me. And so I kind of morphed as we grew. I kind of went where I needed to go, really. And so did Keith. Keith's not in a van. I'm not in a van on the day-to-day. Like I will when I need to. Like we have a technician that's going to have knee surgery next week. Actually, this Friday, he's having knee surgery. So he's going to be out. So we're just kind of shifting roles. And because I would hate for him to lose the income, he can set at work and keep his knee iced. And whenever he's ready to come back, we're ready to do that for him. So
that's awesome.
I'll go in the van and do diagnostics or programming, ADOS, whatever it requires. So
I know you said ADOS was your favorite.
Yeah.
But between programming and diagnostics, do you have a preference?
Programming. I
like that?
Yeah, because I can get a lot of jobs done in a day. I like to be able to like knock them out. Diagnostics, I'm still just not, I don't know, maybe the way that I came into the industry has made it harder for me to go backwards, but I still really struggle with it. But we're also seeing hardest of the hard too. You have to think about it like that. I mean, the general diagnostic that you would at a shop level see, hey, like my brakes are squealing. Okay, well, that's a lower level than what we're being called out to do, right? We're calling out, hey, this is like intermittently dying, but only after they do X, Y, Z, So you have to replicate it, then you have to diagnose that. And so we are seeing a tougher level anyways. So it just for me, diagnostics does come harder. And I said in Keith's classes, said in everybody else's classes, and I understand the fundamental concepts, I feel like, but when I get to the car, I'm like, man, okay, there's a lot here. So
yeah, right. I mean, it's just so much to know.
Mm-hmm.
It can be overwhelming, even if you came up, in it, if you will. There's just so much to know, and depending on how many car lines you deal with, which I think you guys deal with all of them.
Yeah, everything.
Right? It's pretty much anything.
Yeah, I mean, right now I have a 2000 Ford Ranger, and then I have a 2014 Land Rover. I mean, that's literally like kind of what we're seeing. We got asked about a Bentley on Monday.
Yeah, that sounds like my world.
Right. So I'm just like, yeah, we're seeing, it's not like I can, just get one thing down. Like, like these diagrams are inherently harder by different manufacturers, like wiring diagrams. It's just harder to navigate sometimes. So
yeah, you start getting your favorites and yeah, definitely. And then, different car lines, different platforms, they all have their own little, nuances and caveats where it's really hard to just kind of have this general knowledge, be able to translate all, consistently.
Right.
But, that's just the way it is. And I think just having you in that class, you're definitely smart enough to pick it all up. It's just getting the time and experience, like that right. Time of diagnosing to start experiencing it and putting it into practice, either what you've learned in a class or figured out on your own using service information and wiring schematic and whatever right. diagnostic tool is appropriate, and, kind of getting burned here and there. And all of a sudden, it'd start clicking and you'd be a beast. And Keith, he could do the day-to-days and you could do the training.
Yeah. He's doing a lot of the training. I'm doing a lot of day-to-day. So maybe one day we'll switch. We'll see. Maybe we'll hire someone into my position.
There you go. What was your favorite ADAS cal to do? Maybe no, dynamics don't count, maybe.
Oh yeah, no, dynamics don't count.
You just flip the radio on and go for a ride.
Honestly, I like the Acura and the Honda Lane Watch. And I know that's silly, but I just think it's like the funnest feature. Yeah. I don't know. That was one of my favorite ones to do. Yeah. And you don't see them a whole awful lot. Like that's not like I don't know, super common thing around here, but
it's like we saw a bunch right away.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I've seen one since. Now I've jinxed it. I'm going to see one tomorrow.
Right. Of course.
But
yeah.
Yeah. It's like right away there was a bunch. And Lane Watch, that's the one with the camera in the right side view mirror that when you hit the turn signals, we'll call it the radio or the display shows you an image of kind of your blind spot, if you will.
I mean, it's like a live video feed basically. And you're seeing that. It's great. I actually purchased an Acura and I forgot that I needed to check that, and I ended up without one. I was like, dang it. I was like, can we add this? And he's like, maybe. I don't know. Let's figure it out. So has the capability. We're just looking into it.
It's got the big domino kind of looking target line up with the rear wheel, right rear wheel, passenger rear wheel.
Yeah. And it's
or in that vicinity, I guess.
Yeah. What's funny is it uses a different for right now we have like different target systems, and one of the stands that like holds all these targets, there's two different like major stands. And when I would put that stand, I would actually be mad because it would like give me no room to walk around in the van, but I would love doing them every time. Yeah, that one's my favorite. Hondas, Toyotas, they use the cone. So those are a lot of fun because they're like a quick and easy, like get her done, because you pretty much just set up the cone, raise it at the right spot. Of course you have to do all the prep work. We have to do that for every vehicle.
Did you start out one way and end up doing another? Like, did you start out dropping plumb bobs and then running a line or a string front to back or back to front, really?
No.
And extend it out, or were you doing laser pretty much right off the bat?
Lasers. I had the funniest story about one time I was doing a laser. And you know how we were using that, I don't know if I can say brand names here, but I was using the Autel kit, and there's this little mirror, and it's like, I don't even know. It's a right angle mirror, but it's at a different, the actual mirror is like at a 45, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
I didn't know how to use that mirror. Like in the instructions, I did not understand what it was meaning by using this mirror. So I lay down on the ground. I'm looking under the car to see, is my, just thinking back about it just cracks me up. Looking under the car to see if my laser is touching the right point, right? And this guy comes over in this collision shop, and he's never seen me before. Yet I've been there a bunch of times. But this guy in particular had never seen me. He comes running over. He touches me on the back. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, I turn around and I'm like, yeah, like, why? And he's like, I don't know. I just looked over and all of a sudden you're on the ground. And I was like, yep, do it all day, man. Like this is part of it. But yeah, and then every time he sees me, he's like, hey, this time I'm prepared. Like, you're going to be on the ground, right? And I was like, actually, I learned how to use this mirror when I went to SEMA. So thank you, Autel booth, for showing me how to use this and not having to get on the ground. But yeah, actually, you utilize it so you can actually see from a standing or kneeling position where your laser is hitting the target. And I was like so embarrassed to say, I have no idea how this works. But I use the system all day long. I don't have to use that mirror, right? But just like that was just one thing that I could use without having to lay down on the ground.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you all right?
Yeah. I don't know what you thought.
The shops have an area for you to do stuff, or you end up doing a lot of them outside, or?
Well, there's some things you can't do outside, right? Like the windshield you can't do outside because of the light. But for the most part, we will go into that shop and say, hey, do you have a level ground? Right? I'm like, oh, you can just do it over the drain. I'm like, it's not how this works. So like, yeah, just use the wash bay. Nope. Most of the time, we're in Oklahoma, right? There is nothing here. There's no mountains. There's hardly hills. So
everywhere is flat.
Right.
You can park the car anywhere.
You would think so. But all of these parking lots are at such a crazy grade that there's no way. Right. So I couldn't do them outside. So I would end up having to move like somebody out of the side of the shop for like the time I was there. Like, hey, like, sorry, if I'm going to do it here, I've got to move you out of the way. But we actually ended up getting a shop, like just a small, oh gosh, I think it was like 1,200 square feet, little shop where we could take the vehicle back to the shop and do a calibration. We actually were looking at like storage units even, right? A large storage unit.
Yep. We ended up doing the same thing. You know, Toyota stuff, really anything that doesn't have the target set much more than, let's say like 15 feet in front, I could do in my area, but I'd have to clear it out. I'd have to get everything out of there and then I could do it. And it's kind of a hassle. And then a friend of mine who we do a lot of work for, he owns a collision shop. We do a lot of work for him. I was kind of whining one day that like, it would be really great to find a storage space, like you're saying, or, you know, rent part of a building or rent a whole building just so I could have space to do this and do it all inside and do it all, you know, really, I guess the right way. Mm-hmm. I kid you not, maybe 3 months later, he calls me up. He's like, hey, meet me over here in, you know, an hour or two. Got to go look at something. So we go a couple buildings down from us and they rent the back to him and I got one side and he has the other. He has a frame bending machine or straightening machine.
Yeah.
I suppose you could use it to bend if you wanted.
Yeah, either way.
But the purpose is to straighten. And I got the other side for ADAS. It's freaking great.
That's awesome.
Not even a block away. And just like you said, just to have a space to do it, that's, the floor is level, the lighting's about right, stuff for all your equipment to sit, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. We've been very fortunate to get both of our buildings were brand new builds. And so with that, we were able to say, don't put anything on the walls. Do not hang anything on the walls. Do not paint the walls. Nothing reflective, And it's been great, man. Like we actually built an area, one side of our shop. We have a loft area for storage. We had that built. And then we put curtains for when we have to do windshield calibration. So there's nothing in the background. And when I say curtains, I don't actually mean like, I went to Walmart and bought curtains. I went into Home Depot and got like the biggest drape cloth they offer. But yeah, you just have a solid surface back there. But yeah, it was great building it, making sure that everything was level. We came in when there was nothing on the floor and we said, hey, there's no building yet. Is this going to work? Should we rent this space? Is the floor level enough? Right? Is it in that grade zone? And thankfully it was. So
nice. Obviously, ADAS, I think, is fairly well known with most collision centers. Most collision shops are now fairly aware of it because of their dealings with insurance companies and whatnot. Do you guys do a lot of work for repair shops? And then do they know about it? And have you been able to breach the topic? Because I've tried around some of the area shops, and it's like they're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Or they've kind of heard about it.
So I have one shop in particular that uses us quite often. They are a repair shop. That's what they do. They do not do body. They don't do anything else, right? They're a repair shop for a customer. But they also they're not very far from like a car auction. And they have a ton of auction cars come in that are wrecked or have lights on or have, XYZ. The amount of things that have gone through auction with lights or codes or things in these systems, we had to sit down and say, hey, this is what it's going to take to fix this. You're going to have to replace the crash bar. This is how far it's gone. This is not just replacing a sensor or a bracket, but for the most part, a lot of the shops aren't seeing it. Like, oh, what does that mean? And so you do have to go down that path and explain to them, hey, this is a system and this is what it's used for. This is how we have to go about fixing it. I will say, oh gosh, it's probably 6 or 8 months ago. I had a shop come in and they said, hey, this guy came in. He was in a collision. He didn't go through insurance, but we put this new sensor on and he says it needs to be calibrated. It's like, oh, okay. So we go out there. He put a new sensor on, but he didn't fix his quarter panel. And oh boy, that whole thing was like, it was in the trunk. Like it was like so far in. And he's like, well, we're just going to put the cover on and it'll be fine. I was like, I cannot do this. I cannot. He's like, well, you could pull it out, right? No, I cannot pull it out. That is not a proper repair. And the shop owner didn't understand. He finally had to get the customer to come out and I had to explain it to both of them. This is not how the system works. This is a safety system. You cannot do this.
Yep.
So yeah, it's interesting the people that don't know and having to explain that to them because I think you kind of get into I'm a new shop owner, so I can't say a whole lot about what other people say or see or whatever, but I think you get kind of into a niche of this is what I see all the time. This is what I'm prepared for. And then you just go on. Now there's this new technology. A lot of them are not prepared for hybrid. They're not prepared for a lot of things that are coming down the line quick. And so, yeah, we have to have those conversations.
Just offhand, I'm trying to think of systems on vehicles that can leave not right and you would not know it until you needed it to work or it completely malfunctioned. Meaning, you can't really mess up the ABS too bad because it'll kick a light on.
Right.
You can't really screw up something with the engine. You're going to get a light or it's not going to run right or the transmission is not going to shift right. Mm-hmm. Right. There's like these immediate
pretty immediate
repercussions for it not being right.
Absolutely.
ADAS, you could have the camera or sensor, if we're talking about radar or camera, just hanging,
Mm-hmm.
and it may not illuminate a light until either however long down the road, and it'd be hard to say without getting like very specific vehicles, I think, but there may be really no indication that anything's wrong until you needed it to work.
Right. Right.
So it's like, it's really hard for them to wrestle with. How can it be wrong? How can it be not, right and ready to go down the road if I don't have a warning light?
Right.
And all their, I would offhand again, like I'm sure somebody can rattle off a few things for me to correct me, but man, I can't think of anything that you can have fairly wrong that doesn't have an almost immediate sign or repercussion.
Yeah.
So that seems to be the big deal with ADAS is, I did the alignment, no lights, no codes.
Yep.
Ship it. She's good.
Right.
And not insinuating that, one way or another, it might not self-calibrate down the road enough to work properly, but there's at least definitely a window where it's possible it's not right. It's not even close to right.
Right.
And then it's either going to click a light on or something's not going to work that the client or the vehicle owner is going to assume is going to work.
Right. I mean, just the automatic braking feature, right? You don't know you need it until you need it, right? All those commercials, like they promote, hey, this car will automatically stop. You don't know until you need to use it. These systems are there as an assistance device. Gosh, I've used my ADAS system every day. I mean, I love my radar cruise. I love my lane keep assist.
Yep.
I mean, I love those devices because it makes it so much easier to drive and so much funner to drive. You're not sitting there, brake, reset the cruise, brake, reset the cruise, know?
That was going to be my example. You have a vehicle owner who that's what they do. They set the cruise, the, adaptive cruise. And, I don't want to say check out, but you just assume it's going to work.
Right.
You're pulling up to a stoplight and you got cars in front of you and the car will stop and it might do the traffic jam mode, or I think that's what it's called, where it'll stop and go on its own to kind of creep through traffic, stop and go traffic. Right. But that doesn't work, or it isn't right. It sees the truck in front of you, but not the car
or a trailer, or anything.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, boom,
boom. You've now hit somebody. And then now you're looking at liabilities. And who do you go back to? Well, I was just in a collision and they fixed it and it didn't work right. Now look where you're at as a shop. Well, you can't just say, I just didn't know. I don't think that's going to run in court, No. So I actually had a shop at a collision center, matter of fact, and the customer prompted the calibration, not the shop. Yeah, Ooh. That's what I said. So I get a call. He's like, hey, I've got this Ford Edge. The customer says it needs to be calibrated. What is that for? Why? And I was like, well, did you replace the windshield? Yeah. Okay, it needs to be calibrated. It's got lane keep assist or lane departure or whatever.
I didn't unplug the camera.
I didn't take it off anything, did I? Somebody else did the work. I didn't do the work. I called somebody in to do it, right? They don't think about, hey, should I check these and make sure? Now, we've done other calibrations for them. That's how I got the call. But imagine if I hadn't done calibrations for them. What would have happened? What if they didn't know? So we ended up going out there. We calibrated. It was a dynamic and gave it back to the customer. Customer says, hey, it's not working at all. I go, okay, well, we need a dynamic. We also do a verification test drive at the end of every single calibration we do. I'm like, man, okay, well, have him bring it back in. So he did, and the system was off. He had just hit the button. And it's a common, I'm sure it happens, right?
Yep.
The shop level at the collision center didn't know to check for that. They didn't know that's how that system worked.
Yeah, it might be menu driven and you got to go in and check the box or uncheck the box. And
in this case, it was like at the end of the shifter and it was just a button, right? Sure, he got in the car and hit it.
Okay.
Like It happens. But for the shop to call us and say, hey, he says it's not working. You were the last one to touch the system. Come back and check it out. Sure, we'll come check it out. Absolutely.
I find it somewhat comical.
Right.
How the roles reverse sometimes, where people that interact with the public across the counter, they get really annoyed with the ever sent you.
Yep. Yeah.
And then how quickly when the shoe goes on the other foot.
Yep.
Ever since you.
Yep. Exactly. It's an interesting dynamic when they are not knowledgeable. And so that's part of our training company is to get the word out there, right? To have that content available. I know that there's a lot of people out there, but just doing our part to try to get it known. I've run into a lot of collision centers that don't even have a scan tool at all. Like no scan tool.
Wow.
Like they literally will call us to do a code clear. They're just not staying up with what everyone would say is a normal shop or a normal collision center,
I thought they would at least have to have something, even if it's one of the various, I think, collision shop aimed devices that do health reports and maybe some over the, well, what should we say, online, either programming or calibrating. That's stunning to me that they wouldn't have something.
So we go in and do all their pre and post scans. Here's the thing too, that I don't know, it's just a common thing that we see. Insurance companies will pay collision centers very much less than they will pay a contractor to come in or sublet, right? So in his eyes, I think he says, well, they'll pay their bill. They're not going to pay me to do a pre and a post.
There's a lot of logic to that.
Yeah.
Yep. We've run into that a few times where they'll kick the work to us. Even outside of Diag and programming and whatnot, because of if they sublet it, it's easier for them to get paid for it.
Right. Yeah.
And then of course they don't have to do it, and then they can sublet it. And, you give them a little bit of a break, and then they can mark it up, and they make a little bit of money, and you make some money. And
yeah. And imagine like not having to take it to the dealer anymore. Like when you have a mobile business that's coming to your shop, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer at that point. From a shop perspective, I do understand it.
Most of them are ecstatic to not have to go to the dealer for, getting closer on a lot of stuff, anything, but a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That there's an alternative. Yeah.
And from what I understand, it's definitely growing, the mobile programming and diagnosis. Like we see it more and more, we're on Facebook pages and things like that, and we're seeing it more and more across the country. And it's great to see that.
It's a wave. I think, I'm torn about it.
Yeah.
The future of it and all, but it's kind of that thing. And it's the gig where if your heart and soul is in, Diag, it's one of the better ways to get a bunch of it. The problem is the Diag you're going to find, just like a regular shop, is hard to get paid for, because there's that shoe on the other foot thing again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shops complain how hard it is to get a customer to pay for Diag, and then yet when they have somebody come in to do some Diag, they don't necessarily want to pay for it either.
I get those phone calls all the time. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's maddening in some cases. So then you find you make your money programming so that you can still get your diet of diagnostics. Or some of them, after a while, it's just there's too much money in the programming and the calibrations, ADAS or otherwise, module calibrations or whatever, that they just kick Diag to the curb.
Honestly, at this point, I would say our diagnostics is a good 30 to 40% still. It is still very, very strong. I have a shop in particular that it's interesting because they have a car lot, they have a service center, and a tow truck company, all in the same name. So they will literally just tow the vehicle to us. Like, here, we can't.
That's awesome.
We're not going to figure it out. Here you go. Oh, okay. So we don't have a ton of parking. So they're like, okay, wait, one at a time, or like, hey, like slow down, or hey, we'll send somebody over there, But the center that they're using, and brilliant in their opinion, a little bit difficult to work around, but it was an old, like self-wash car base is what they turned into their shop.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's
nice.
interesting, but it's really small. Each bay, you
Yeah,
think
that
about
would
it's
be a
really
little.
small with a lift in it. So we can go out there and do some things, but there's other things we just can't. We can't diagnose around them or around all the things. So just the way of like everybody's growing and figuring out their things. But yeah, the business is still growing and going great. We're still doing a ton of programming, a ton of ADOS, even refrigerant, even, like
Yep.
everything's growing. It's staying pretty consistent.
Well, with the YF machines, when they first came out, the pricing versus how often are you going to use them, especially if you're just an indie shop.
Right.
You're not really going to see a YF car for quite a while. Collision shops, maybe not enough to justify it. So that's what I did. Kind of went around to the couple of collision shops and said, hey, I'll buy the machine.
Yeah.
And, we'll work out a price. We were the only, other than the dealerships,
Sure.
we were the only place in town that had one for quite a while.
Really? Yeah.
And, it's going to change, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the cost of it has already gone down. Like just to buy it has gone down over $100 since we sold it, started buying it. I mean, yeah, just what everything is more it gets common. I think that the different prices will change. Even with ADOS, I feel like someone got a hold of our price sheet and was like, oh, hey, we're going to open up a collision center. Said, hey, we'll just open up one. I was like, oh man, they asked for our price sheet. Like, is it going to be like, are they going to like undercut us by like $5? And they're offering it mobile too. But in the end of the day, it didn't change anything. Like we still do ADOS. We still have plenty of business. I think just them knowing us and having that relationship really helps.
Just like any business, really, somebody can put up anything. It doesn't matter what, that does it for less money.
Yeah.
But you don't know them, and a lot of times you don't find out the value of what you're paying until things go wrong.
Yeah.
And something doesn't work out quite the way you'd hoped, then it's usually the slightly more expensive.
But yeah, you see those reviews and you're like, man, like, okay, so don't be too nice or don't be like too awful. Like find a happy medium,
Right.
But
right. Try to.
Yeah, we have like
hit that
the smallest office ever.
Balance.
It's like a 10 by 10. Like when you come in, there's 2 chairs from IKEA and it's very small coffee stand and like a podium for me to like use my tablet. I mean, it's very minimalistic. I mean, with the exception of all of our awards and ASC certifications on the wall.
Facility or service provider takes better care of you. Mm-hmm. Part of it because they probably feel like they need to and should. They should.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And they also have the ability to,
right.
because they made money that they can afford to do the right thing, where you're not. God, sometimes you just can't afford to do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely shops that have like the nicest leather couch and every snack option and coffee and hot chocolate and all of these amenities. And at the end of the day, people say, well, that's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for that. And I'm like, huh? I mean, I'm sure to a point, but you're
right to a point,
yeah,
but
like it's not going to be like 50% of your bills paying for their front office, So it's pretty minimalistic, but no one has complained or said anything about it. And everyone seems to think it's, a nice area, but, I'm sure there's going to be somebody one day, they'll say something, but
oh yeah. Yeah. Our waiting area is quite large, mainly because the building before we moved in was they built interiors for like, kitchens and whatever. So they had their displays. And so the waiting area is, more on the large side, I would say,
mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those features where, we don't have the leather couches, but we got a nice couch and we got the high top, tables.
Yeah.
For like 2 people can sit at, and they're very popular for people that have work to do.
Yeah.
They'll just sit there with their laptop, and you got a little kid play area that's really popular with the families. And so, yeah, I don't know. I see both sides of it. Some shops just don't want people hanging around. But in this case, there's so much space between where our service advisors kind of work and where the customers sit that it's not, you don't feel like they're just hovering.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We definitely tried to not have the waiters just for that reason. There's just, I mean, there's 2 chairs and a TV and some coffee. Like there's just really not much. We did have one customer that this was his only vehicle. He had no other mode of transportation and he wanted to bring his wife and kids with him. And I was like, it's not that big. Like it's really small. And we're doing a diagnosis. So I don't know how long this is going to take, you know? So I told him, I was like, he's like, well, we'll just wait outside. It was a nice day. It wasn't like bad weather in any way. It wasn't too hot, too cold, or rainy or snowy. We don't get a lot of snow here, but
not too hot. It's like 110.
That day it wasn't that hot. Oh. But yes, our hot is very hot. I do not do well with the heat. Also, another reason
I thought it was a dry heat.
No, we are humid heat.
Really?
Yeah. So we lived in Colorado for like 5 years, and like when it was hot or cold there, it didn't feel nearly as hot or cold because there was no humidity. We're in a desert climate. So in Oklahoma, no, our humidity is insane. Like I have curly hair. It takes a toll. But yeah, ended up the guy was like, oh, okay, well, if you're sure like that we can't wait outside. I was like, we're like in an industrial kind of area. Like I don't think there's not like anywhere like to even set chairs outside. But yeah, he ended up just coming and sitting in there and ended up falling asleep in the chair. But yeah, like he was comfortable enough. So, but he was there for a couple hours. So that's really the only waiter we get. I mean, it's just kind of the odd man out, you know, like for the most part, we're able to have everybody drop off their vehicle.
So there's a question that I feel like I need to ask.
Shoot.
As a mother and a wife, and now, you know, co-owner of a business.
3.
The work-life balance. Oh, yeah, I guess I was thinking more like umbrella.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes. Owner of businesses. Yeah, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Businesses under the umbrella of L1. I guess the work-life balance. How do you navigate that? Both just to get the stuff you need to get done. And I don't want it to come off like, you know, begging on Keith or anything like that. No. But typically women, no, but I think typically, and I think it's proven with data,
right, that
as women moved into the workforce, they really didn't get to hand off a whole lot of the domestic, you know, quote unquote domestic type of responsibilities.
Right.
And so do you find that with all this going on, how do you find time to do it all? Like, how'd you find time to sit down and talk to me? Because, you know, I really, really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Yeah. So we have, first of all, I have the best partner in the world and no one can argue with me about that. But we found that we were disconnected from our kids. We got really in depth in the business. I mean, to the fact that we were coming home, the kids were watching TV, we are on our phones still working. I mean, that's what you do as a business owner is you've got to build. And I wish I could go back a few years and start this when they were not here yet. You know, I wish I could have done that. That's just not my reality, right? So I've got to figure out how to do it now, how to figure it out. So Keith does, you know, he writes classes. He's the tech support. You know, he's doing that. I'm answering phones every day, all day, doing all of the paperwork in the background. We have an accountant. So we did, I guess, farm that out, if you will. So we have an accountant that does all that. We have a CPA that does our taxes and all of that. So I was able to alleviate some of those things from myself, right? And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Keith teaches at night. And so I said, hey, instead of me having to leave halfway through the day to go with the kids, because we don't want to nanny them or put them in daycare. We did look at that. That is an option we could afford, but it's just something that we didn't feel that we needed when it came down to it. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, he stays home all day and he works from home. So he's able to have focused one-on-one time, for just him, I guess one-on-one for himself, time to really get in that groove and work, right? Without any other distractions of the shop or the phone ringing or me asking him questions or any of our other technicians or customers, right? So we did that. And that means I stay at work all day Tuesday, all day Thursday. So I open and close the shop. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I leave at 2:20 in the afternoon. And so I'm able to come and get the kids and then go do whatever I need to get done, right? If I need to take them to a dentist appointment, eye appointment, what have you, if I'm backed up on laundry, we just sit there and just do 3 loads in a row, So we've been able to give ourselves a good balance. Tuesday and Thursday nights, that's my one-on-one time with my kids. So I'm checking the backpacks when I get home. I'm making sure that we read before bed and do all of the nighttime routines while he's working. And then on the opposite, he does Monday and Wednesday. So like today's Wednesday, he's up there with the kids. They're with dad, having their dad time. Last weekend, we had a training event. It was all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And so we're lucky enough to have good family that was like, hey, bring him over. We'll take him the whole weekend. So we're able to also work, without having to worry about like, hey, the kids have to set the shop for like 9 or 10 hours, but they definitely have those days when they're out of school. Sometimes I'll take off and go do stuff with them. But yeah, I mean, it could be a lot crazier than what it is. It has been. This definitely wasn't how it started out, but we've grown it and learned along the way, and I feel like we're in a really good spot now. Like the kids are happy. I'm happy. Keith's happy, and at the end of the day, like we're making it work.
Oh, that's awesome. You guys moved in now to your new place?
Yeah.
Your new house?
Yeah. We bought I don't even know how big this thing is. 2,600 square foot house. Our dream.
Thought it was like 10,000.
Oh, no. Maybe the next one. But we bought forever property. That was our goal, is to build and buy dirt. That's what they say. They're not going to make any more of it, right? Actually, there's like a country song about buying dirt, and that's what we wanted to do. That was our goal, is to get some land and really kind of feel, I don't know, there's just like this feeling of like, I own land. There's nobody around me for a while. I only own 5.5 acres, but to some that is like a lot of land,
What the typical city or town lot is maybe a 1/4 acre,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 2/10 of an acre, maybe 3/10 of an acre. That's the average.
Yeah. So for us, it's amazing. We see deer, and we have I wouldn't necessarily call him a pet, but he comes by the back door and we give him chicken, possum. And if it's a girl, it is Natasha. If it's a boy, it is Mike. So we don't know which one he is or she. But to just have those experiences with the kids too, like my husband loves to shoot. And so we made a little shooting range, like to really just feel like we're still living the day to day, even though we're stressed out, So yeah, we moved in, middle of September, we moved in and starting to really get settled. I feel like, like the Christmas break, me and the girls like unpacked the last of the boxes. So that's a great feeling. Yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, right.
But yeah, we're waiting, anxiously waiting our pool. There was a pool here was 40 years old, and it had a 14-foot wide crack in it. So got that repaired.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Oh yeah. Devastating for 2 little girls who's like, hey, it has a pool. We're so excited. And then we find out, it's a huge pool. I mean, like huge. It's like 17 feet wide, 25 feet long, 12 feet deep. And it's a huge, or maybe it's 35 feet long. I don't know. It's huge, right? They're so excited about having a pool. And then to find out, well, there's a 14-foot crack in it. So we're going to need to repair that. So thankfully, we found somebody available to repair fiberglass, and that's coming in hopefully before the warm comes, get rid of this winter. So,
Yep.
But yeah, just trying to remember to live every day, because you don't know how many you get, for sure.
No, not really. And on that, no.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been getting hammered home probably more often than we talk about. But yeah, I think like some recent celebrity passings with Betty White and Bob Saget, Bob Saget coming out of nowhere,
right?
Just kind of hits like, oh man.
Yeah, I think it's kind of also like, look at mentally, what year do you think it is mentally? You don't think it's 2022. We've lost 2 years of our lives, right? So I think everybody has that same kind of feeling like, hey, we've got to really live for today. You know, we've got to really make those changes in our life that we really want, not in 5 years. Like, yeah, there might be a 5-year goal, but what can we do today?
I agree with that 100%. We just killed an hour like that, like bang. That's insane.
Well, you're easy to talk to.
Tell that to my wife.
Well, but how long have you been married? She might
disagree with you.
Well, how long have you been married?
A couple centuries.
Yeah. I mean, what other things do you have to talk about after a couple centuries? Kind of know everything, right? I mean, me and Keith have been together. We just celebrated 17 years together.
Well, yeah, so, you guys were high school sweethearts, right?
Yeah. So what's funny is we didn't even go to the same high school. So we were high school sweethearts.
Well,
we were in tech together.
Rival schools.
Oh, no, not even rivals.
No.
But we actually happened to go to tech together. But yeah, 17 years. So after 17 years, we still have something to talk about. Still enjoy each other's company.
That's tough that's awesome. Well, yeah, right. That's very important. And then but also it's something you can see, you know, so you guys are at Apex, SEMA. Mm-hmm. I was out there. A group of us met for dinner one night, and, you know, you can just tell, you know, not just you and Keith enjoy each other's company. Mike and Lisa Miller, you can tell they just genuinely enjoy each other's company.
Yeah. That's a question I get asked a lot is how the heck do you work together all day and still go home to each other at night? And for us, it's just easy. I know it's not for everyone, you know, like I get that. For whatever reason, we can make it. I mean, there are definitely times like I push his buttons. Like he's like, I don't understand why you cannot do X, Y, Z. Yes, we have those like discussions. Do we argue and bicker? That's just not us. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's easy just to come home and enjoy each other's company.
So the next time you and I sit down to chat, we're going to have to talk about relationships.
I can do that.
Relationship advice with Liz Perkins. That's got a good ring to it. I think we should do that.
I'm down. You
think I'm joking? I think that would make for a pretty darn good discussion.
Yeah. I mean, even work life, I know we talked a little bit about it, like work-life balance, but you know, I get asked that a lot too, you know, like, and how I started doing this. And there's a lot of topics that, you know, come up often. So
it was a dangerous question just because I know how it could get twisted.
Right.
And misinterpreted to that it's like an attack on, or not even an attack, but just, you know, potentially could be calling somebody out. In this case, specifically Keith, but that wasn't my intent. It's just knowing in the real world that for men, typically in that relationship, they can work around the clock, and that's just kind of accepted.
Right.
And the domestic type of duties are, you know, generally left to be outside, you know, mowing the yard. And if the kids are old enough, then they take that.
Yeah.
And the guys can be a little bit better about giving themselves some free time with, you know, working on a hot rod, doing some woodworking, going hunting, you know, whatever it is, poker night with the boys. Women, not always so much. Yeah. And so I was just kind of curious just to toss that out there, not looking for dirt or anything, just an honest. And that's what I got. That's why I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed having you on.
I really appreciate you asking me. Like, I was shocked, but I'm very honored to be here. I love listening and going to continue listening.
That was Liz Perkins with L1 Automotive Diagnostics and Programming. They also have L1 training that you need to check out. Keith puts on online classes, has videos to watch, some really, really good content. That's no BS. I'm being straight up with you. He has some really, really good content. And then if you can see him in person, he's right up there with the best of them. So thank you again, Liz.
Absolutely.
And hopefully have you on soon.
Sounds great.
You've been listening to Matt Fonslow, diagnosing the aftermarket A to Z on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Matt on your favorite listening app. He's very interested in what you have to say. Let him know what you'd like him to cover and come on the show. Matt is all for advancing the aftermarket. Find Matt Fonslow on social media and connect or on aftermarketradionetwork.com.